Greetings, it's Terra Illumination. It's Saturday afternoon, 23rd of September 2023. It's official. The Terra Illumination strike period is over. Okay. So some of you know that, I got another strike. I had to shut it. I couldn't post. I can't do anything on YouTube. And it's over now. And of course, they're watching me, and I have to comply and be nice according to the community guidelines for the next 3 months, or they do it again. And I'm not going to contest how and why they did what they did. I think it's completely unright. But I understand what they do and how they do it. Their premise is that you are guilty until proven innocent, and that's just how it is. And I can't fight it. There's no way to actually go through a resolution of any kind. So I just have to live with it. It's very nasty. Anyway, we are back in play again. Some of my favorite channels, which operate kind of on the fringes, where they have huge followings, but they are right on the fringes of attitudes, perceptions, beliefs, communications, that are very contrary to the mainstream and the owners of the world. So they are constantly being harassed, demonetized, threatened, and spanked. But again, they do carry a lot of revenue for YouTube, so I guess they don't get completely, utterly shut down. Anyway, I wanted to go to, I need to do a little bit of catching up and share stuff with you. I was grinding my teeth through my sleep, and my chest is very sore and aching because that's what happens when I get very, very tense and scared about things that I don't understand or can't control. One of the things I've been studying recently is how the sun itself and its geomagnetic impulses, solar flares, CMEs, and all of that, affect your brain, the nervous system. You think I'm kidding? You can do your own research, but it's becoming very, very clear. And pretty much everybody in my little world, my little community, they're all like, oh my God, what was I feeling today? And I can almost guarantee I can find a parallel with the solar patterns and emissions for that particular day. Same thing. It's almost like the way I like to blame it on the planets, which I'm going to do again in a little bit. Just let me go to the stage and we'll move on. Hold on. Please bear with me. It's a little cluttered. I want to go to the second point I got here. Some of you might be aware that there's this outrageously outspoken fellow over in England, and he used to be the husband of Katy Perry, and he turned his life around apparently, and he became a very, very outspoken proponent of freedom of speaking. And that's what got him into trouble. And he has 5.5 million subscribers and followers, and he makes a lot of money from his YouTube channel. And guess what? They sliced him across the throat. Demonetized. And of course now he's moving over to Rumble more and more and more than ever before, which is exactly what I've been trying to do, interestingly enough. Now, what they did over there at the Google YouTube, control center is that they cut out all his monetization that comes from advertising revenue, but they still post ads on his amazingly popular channel. But instead, YouTube collects all the ad revenue instead of sharing it with Mr. RB. And here's the other thing that, of course, it's a massive headline distraction, and it was on every major newspaper, media source all across Great Britain and English-speaking world about what had happened to him. The breach and the scandal about going too far when it talks about freedom of speech. And in the background, guess what happened? The online safety bill was passed. What is that? You might wonder. So I've got a little thing here. I hope I can bring it up for you, and I will show you. Let's see. Here it is. I should, if I had fancier ways to do this, it says, today the UK Parliament undermined the privacy, security, and freedom of all internet users. Why did they say all? Because what's happening in the United Kingdom is a precursor to what's going to happen across the rest of the world, unless we stop it. They basically passed something called the Online Safety Bill. And it's supposed to basically protect little kids and stuff from coming across troublesome content on the internet. But what it's really about, it's a backdoor that undermines encryption and allows every government entity to scroll through and spy on every single tiny microscopic aspect of your online life and censor it in any way, shape, or form that they want. So in other words, it's the classic, way of, hey, we're here to protect your children. We're here to save you. Don't worry about it. We got it all under control. Just download this app. Well, it's going to be downloaded for you anyway. You won't be able to stop it. And it's for your safety and protection. Gag. I'm gagging. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. And no one else is buying it. And it's terrifying because they're going to try to do the same thing here in the United States. Moving on. Let me just move on to the next thing here. There's another thing that I found it was actually exciting to me because it validated my, oh God, what am I doing here? Beep, beep, okay. It validated my beliefs and perceptions. There are a couple of channels out there which I hold in very high regard. And one of them put in a lot of work to make a slightly different video what he normally makes about global finance and the finance system, interest rates, inflation, the Federal Reserve banking system, how to protect your assets, how to grow your wealth, and all of that good stuff. And he did much more of a comprehensive deep dive about the how and why of what's happening in this very scary global financial implosion. Like, what the bleep is going on here? In other words, why are we getting more and more poor? Why do interest rates keep going up and up and up? Why does the value of your dollar keep going down, 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 down? Why are there so many revolutions and uprisings and riots and upheavals everywhere across the world? Is it the politicians? Is it, the earthquakes? Is it pollution? Is it, solar flares? Is it overpopulation? Starving? What the hell is it? Well, anyway, he traced it all back to what I personally believe is at the core of it all. Basically, financial manipulation. Hold on, I'm going to go. I just want to share here with you a minute. I think we started here. Yes, we did. Manipulation of the world's currencies. And I should really give you a link. Maybe I could find it. Maybe I'll do that, clicking through my devices in a minute. But the point I want to get to is that he does a very deep dive, thorough presentation, asking a lot of questions, positing you to do your own research and answer these very tough questions for yourself rather than him spoon-feeding you possible answers. I already know the possible answers, and I was kind of going, yep, I agree, yep. And the final one, where you can blame everything, not for me, of course, I blame it on the planets, but before one step back from there, is I take it all back to the United States Federal Reserve banking system, which is at the very, very pinnacle of power control, money, ownership for the people who own the world. They operate through the global banking system, the central banking system, the world of fiat money, fiat currency. In other words, money that is fabricated out of thin air, fiction. It is a belief system. and money is what we believe it to be. And if you're born and raised under those conditions, you're not aware that you're living on a debt farm. You're effectively a debt cow on a debt farm, and the debt farm is owned by the people who own the world. And they operate the debt farms through very powerful tools that milk you as the debt cow and extract value, meat, resources, whatever you want to call it, through the taxation system, through the banking system, through the printing of money, through the debt system. You have to do a lot of your own research to understand this, but essentially it's a massive racket that is designed to extract your personal wealth through a very beautiful, extremely effective scam, where the value ends up in the pockets of the people who own the world. And it was beautiful, the presentation. And by the way, his name is Mark Moss, if you want to do the research. Mark Moss, and it was in one of his most recent videos. I forget the title. Maybe I'll find a way to show it to you. You can do your own homework that way. I'm not a friend of his. He doesn't know me or anything like that, but we share a lot of very, very similar beliefs and understandings. And a lot of it proves to be very, I would call, true. Anyway, we're pointing fingers at the United States Federal Reserve banking system, which resides and presides on top of the rest of all the other central banks across the world. Okay, so without explaining how all that works, what Mark was positing is that, well, what's the connection between the US Fed and the implosion of the world economy, the implosion of China, the implosion of America, the collapse and the inflation in Venezuela, Argentina, Zimbabwe, a load of African countries, parts of the Middle East, parts of Eastern Europe, and so on and so on. What's behind all of that? It sounds like this is insane. It's to the point where there's so much poverty and pain and suffering that it creates riots. It creates mass migration to the point where people are in a state of desperation that they will go anywhere where they have a chance to go. And it's like it all starts to feel like this is coordinated. How could that possibly be? How could the people who own the world actually want this sickness, this evil? Well, how is it like there's this thing in the United States called a border down in the south? It's, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Those 4 states have the border to Mexico, and they're saying between 5 and 7 million people have now crossed in the last year and a half, or 2 years. That is just a staggering. That's an invasion. Okay, that's not just, oh, that's awkward. It's a frickin' invasion, okay? And I don't care what anybody's perspectives are, left wing, right wing, or whatever. Either way, it's an invasion. If you think that's good for you, great. If you don't think that's good for you, well, I can understand why you might be upset. But the point that Mark was trying to make is that there's a strategy behind all of this. Like, why would the owners of the world want such chaos and devolution to the point where, like, you can't nobody can trust anybody, and in the end people are just desperate and screaming out for help? And then he proposed, why don't you have a look at this thing? It's from the 1960s. It's called the Cloward-Piven strategy. And I'm going to show this to you just a second here. And essentially what it is, it's a mindset that came in just after World War II, when the United States especially was really booming, and full-on market capitalism was booming, and the world had never seen anything like it. Basically free market. In other words, free people doing their thing. Now, there are some bad side effects I'm not going to talk about here, and some of you know what they are. But it's a system where there is bounty and freedom, and we had a very, very strong, healthy, growing middle class and working class, and we had relatively small government with relatively small expenditure. We had an extremely powerful military and a lot of freedom to make decisions from the individual states. Of course, now you know that's pretty much vaporized. We live in a very different world now. We live under an administration right here today where they're deliberately allowing these migrants to come in, to the point where even the people who want this to happen are screaming, no, we can't take this anymore. Just watch the news, do your research, see what's happening over there in the state of New York and in Manhattan. And then you'll understand the insanity of all of this. Anyway, it's all planned. It's all part of a strategy. The idea is to cripple the global economy, not just one country, but the whole global economy, so that the working class and the middle class are completely crushed, and the upper class are heavily, let's say, choking, and you end up with a very tiny number of super ultra elites who are the people who own the world. And everybody is a debt cow on a debt farm. And that is all managed and operated through the up-and-coming central bank digital currencies, which are essentially financial slave and control system as used in China already. Do your own research. CBDCs. What is a CBDC? Do your own research, okay? Anyway, why? I'm going to follow from Mark. Now, Mark has put out an amazing book. I don't have it, but I like the title. It's called The Uncommunist Manifesto. And he wrote it with a good buddy of his, because they talk about this stuff all the time, how to reclaim freedom, okay? Because we have allowed that to happen. It has been taken from us, and we've allowed it to happen because we're dumb. Anyway, let me go over here and see if I can do this effectively for you. I think I got it. Hold on. Let me do this again. I'm going to do this from my phone now. So, there's this thing, okay, over here. It's called the Cloward-Piven strategy. It's very well understood in the world of education, social studies, politics, and I'm going to go read a few bits here. It was devised. Okay, here it is. I'll just read it. The Cloward-Piven theory is a strategy devised in the 1960s to successfully provide welfare and attempt to solve political problems. The main steps of this strategy are to 1. Overload a system. 2. Create mass panic and hysteria as the system is overloaded. 3. Oversee the destruction of the system. 4. Replace the former system with a new system. The Cloward-Piven strategy of solving political problems can be compared to a forest fire. Can you see this? I'm actually reading from here. You probably can't see it very clearly, and it's not. Anyway, although these fires result in widespread destruction, eventually a forest is regrown with young trees that are stronger than the old ones had been. Remember, this is from study.com. This is academic material, okay? Another comparison that may help illustrate the benefits of the Cloward-Piven strategy is a scorched earth campaign. In this war strategy, leaders destroy everything they own in a given location, not just military installments or resources. The general idea is that without economic support, the enemy military will not be able to take advantage of their resources. Thus, the opposing army will survive because their enemies will lack the ability to accumulate resources. It's a siege mentality. In a similar fashion, the strategy promotes the idea that as bureaucratic offices and programs are overloaded and fail, the government can replace them with something better. Their first target for capacity overload was the welfare system of the United States, which was still pretty new. Okay. Here. Here's the end game. So I just talked about. Here are the 4 steps to the Cloward-Piven strategy of welfare resolution. Drastically increase welfare recipients. Number 2, trigger an eruption of chaos as the welfare program begins to fail. 3, shifting the responsibility for welfare programs from the local governments to the federal administration. 4, supplying everyone with a government-provided guaranteed income. That is UBI. So they had UBI planned in the 1960s, and it's now 2023. The end game, you may ask? The ultimate purpose of the strategy was twofold. 1, to end poverty and to install socialism. Okay. So anyway, they believed that the welfare programs existing at the time were simply a way for capitalists to oppress poor people under the guise of assistance. Socialism, in their eyes, was the only way to help every member of American society. Anyway, the goals are basically, what's happening right now is these goals are being enacted and activated to overwhelm the American society, where every American or non-American that's living in this location that we call the United States is so completely overwhelmed that they'll beg the government, please help us. And that basically gives the government a green light to, okay, so you want communism? You want socialism? Okay, you got it. And we are going to do that through UBI and CBDCs. Do your own research. UBI, what is UBI? What is CBDC? And that's the plan. Of course, there's other plans with the border stuff, as you know. Everybody has a different strategy. Number 1, some people believe no borders, no problems. Some people believe that how arrogant of Americans to believe that they can run and operate a country as though it's a gated community. That is disgusting. That's racist. That's discrimination. We need to open the borders, and whoever wants to go to America can just go there and be there. Okay. If you want to believe that, you can do that. And so long as you're willing to accept the outcomes. Anyway. So, my view is, I concur with Mark, that the strategy we just talked about here is actually being implemented. There's another version of it which is implemented through, the, what's his name? Karl Marx and his buddy Engels, who wrote the Communist Manifesto, and enacted this stuff. You might have seen something through that fellow Saul Alinsky, because Saul Alinsky was a student at the time. I think her name is Gloria Piven. She's still alive today. I think she's about 95. But this fellow here, Saul Alinsky, was a student. Okay? And this guy is famous in the world of ultra-radical left-wingers. You can read that stuff if you want. It's just to me, it's like know the enemy, You got to kind of know their mindset, what they're up to, how they do what they do, and all of that stuff. And you know how I started this video where I was feeling like I had chest pains and I was grinding my teeth? It's because of fear. What I realized is that I'm scared. I'm essentially a very happy, very optimistic person inside. I've had a very bumpy ride in life. I know it sounds like I'm complaining, because by other standards, I'm extremely, extremely lucky, wealthy, happy, and blessed in my own way. Okay? And I never let myself forget that. But when this is threatened, I have a problem. And lo and behold, there's about 80 million people inside America who feel the same way that I do. And so I am starting to, speak more openly about these things. And I like to correlate this with the planets. So what I'm going to do next is do a little bit of correlation with the planets, if you don't mind. I got more notes to come to here. But here's an example of something. I want to give you a date. Because people have been asking me, hey, Tarot Illumination, what about, when? Okay, so there's global catastrophe, there's inflation, there's interest rates going up and up and up, and there's a recession, is there a depression? When's it all going to happen? Well, number one, we're already in a major recession. Personally, I think we're in a depression. If you go to China, you know what, maybe I should do another show and tell. I'm going to do it. Give me a second here. I want to give you an idea about how bad it is. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that thing. I'm going to go over here. Give me a second. I'm going to go to a place called China Observer. And over here. And I'm just going to give you an example. Over here. Let's see if I can pick this up. Oh, why is it not loading properly? Come on, people. Oh God, we're playing advertising. Excuse me. I'm going to mute that. Mute that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to show you a title. Now remember, this is just one example from one country. Okay, but very similar problems are happening in, I'm going to show you something about China, but there's similar problems all over Africa, parts of India, parts of the Middle East, and parts of Central and South America, okay? I'm going to skip that, add, clickety-click. Okay, I got the volume switched off. I'm just going to show you the title of this video here, if you can see that. Can you see it? I don't know if you can. I'll read it to you. Extreme poverty in China. Girl scavenges for food. Boy sells bottles. Elderly drink dirty water. Okay. Now this is never ending. We're not just talking about a few 100,000. We're talking about tens, probably even 100 million or more. Probably more like 200 million. If you actually dig into this content and the material, we're looking at many, many, many millions of people who live in dire, extreme poverty. Okay? And it's all heavily and well documented. You're not going to see any of this on mainstream. I mean, I'm even stunned that this is even on YouTube, frankly. But anyway, they seem to be a blessed channel. Anyway, a lot of that, again, I refer back to, I default back to the Federal Reserve System. And I've been talking about it for a long time now, for years, regarding Uranus and Taurus and the insanity and chaos, upheaval, revolution in the global financial system. And it's becoming more and more and more obvious everywhere you go, anyone you see, okay? It's almost like the pivotal point of conversation. That's certainly wherever I go, wherever I see people I meet in the street, in cars, in McDonald's, in the grocery store. And so I thought, someone asked me, I think Love Triber asked me, well, can you pick a certain date that, as an example for people? And I thought, you know what? You got a point. Let me do that. And I've been talking about it for a while. What about the date when Jupiter is conjoined with Uranus in Taurus? I thought, we got to watch out. We got to watch out. Okay, so let's put a timestamp. And so lo and behold, if you go to the ephemeris and the astrology sources, you can pinpoint a particular date. It's the 21st of April, 2024. Jupiter will be exactly conjoined with Uranus at 21 degrees Taurus, okay? It's going to be an epic moment in the global financial system. It's going to be in a very hard square with Pluto, not by, well, yes, by sign. So it's going to be a very, very stressful experience. Pluto's going to be in, well, it's really not, anyway, Pluto's going to be in Aquarius at about 2 degrees. So we're talking about revolution, okay? Global societal revolution, upheaval, chaos already. And at the same time, we're going to have global financial upheaval and chaos on a massive scale. What's that going to look like? Well, there's 2 ways it can play out. There are going to be some amazing, wonderful, mind-boggling, let's say, developments, possibly with cryptocurrencies, with new ways that, like new belief systems regarding money and what it is, new ways of transacting, super ultra high speed, instantaneous transfer of money back and forth anywhere across the world, things like that, cryptocurrencies, XRP, Bitcoin, Hex, things like that. The other ones are going to be a little bit more what I would consider unhealthy, like CBDCs, UBI. It's 2 sides of the same. Either way, it's mind-boggling, amazing, expansive revolution, upheaval, and chaos in the global financial system. And it's going to reach a massive crescendo and a crisis point here. So if you want to mark your calendars, what I'm suggesting is get your financial affairs in order now. Because you don't want to get stuck on the wrong side of the equation when this moment in time comes. You will feel the build up to it for a few months in advance. So early next year, February, March, and early April, you're going to start to feel it. So I'm just giving you a heads up. Get ahead of the curve now. There's other things, but I just wanted to illustrate this one in particular. The way I've drawn it is Jupiter and Uranus conjoined. Kerblam, right there. All right? So I made that little point. See, I'm doing all my catch-up stuff that I've been wanting to do. So we talked about that one. Thank you. Got that one done. We talked about the online safety bill and Mr. RB. A massive distraction so that they could get this thing through without anybody noticing or complaining. We just talked about future dates. Yep. I kind of mentioned the United States. The United States Federal Reserve banking system is at the epicenter, the absolute core epicenter of the global financial chaos. And we've talked about it actually quite a few times on the channel, but I'm just stating it again. If you want to blame this or blame that or blame the Visa credit card companies, you can blame your local bank, you can blame, the Illuminatis and whatever. But essentially, at the very core, it's the United States Federal Reserve banking system, which is owned and operated by private banks and bankers that own the Fed as like a cartel. Okay? And they do what they do. They run a debt farm. They are the owners of the world, and they operate the world as though it's a debt farm, and you are a debt cow. Okay? Anyway, I just wanted to state that again. Next thing, I was talking earlier about Mark Moss and the Clowin-Priven strategy and the Fed being at the core of it all, and why is this happening? It's part of a strategy so that the owners of the world can take complete command and control as though it's a simple single farm. Okay, that's their goal. I'm just stating it outright. And what we're seeing here in the United States is what is now being declared officially as an invasion. It's now, legally speaking, declared as an invasion on the south border of Texas. They have declared that this is an invasion, which now gives them the right to act as if it's a state of war. And the state of Texas does not have to filter that through the federal government. The way the Constitution is written, Texas can now take complete control of the situation as of being in a state of war and then doing whatever they have to do. So, I mean, Greg Abbott, the governor, is highly compromised. It's very sad and tragic, but I believe he's trying as much as he can, given the fact that he's heavily compromised. I believe the cartel has got him in a chokehold. Dead. You're dead if you don't play along with us. And so this declaration of war, by using the terminology invasion, as stated in the Constitution, allows Greg Abbott to bring in the military and the National Guard, first responders, anywhere and everywhere in Texas, to take care of it. I don't know if it's going to actually see any results. I have no idea. But I wanted to mention that, because this keeps me up at night. This one keeps me up at night. This one keeps me up at night. This one keeps me up at night. Some of you might be paying attention, I don't know, but the whole China-Russia thing is going on, and they're watching the United States very carefully, because the United States is showing tremendous weakness and vulnerability, and these folks here and these folks here are talking between themselves and each other about, well, how are you going to take advantage of this? I don't know, I was thinking of doing this. Well, how are you going to take advantage of this? Well, we're thinking of doing that. And so that's exactly what's happening. So you've probably already heard that China is now sending massive amounts of, you can't see it hardly on this map, over here, there's little Taiwan. China is just bombarding the whole area with fighter jets, trying to intimidate Taiwan into a reaction, a violent reaction where the first bullet is shot. And it's like a little war game or something. He who speaks first loses. So China is baiting Taiwan. And China is hoping that Taiwan says, screw this, bang. And then that says, well, I told you, Taiwan has to go down. That means we got to go to war. Here's one of the things that makes me feel, it cheers me up a little bit. He said, I like to sort of dig a bit in the background. You may know or may not know that China sells a lot of its military equipment across the world to countries that America doesn't sell to. And a lot of these countries are heavily in debt to China. In other words, China says, here, we'll lend you a ton of money to buy our jets, our boats, our weapons systems. And the little country says, oh, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Bang, 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 bang. And then China delivers the goods. And then the country starts using the goods, and the country realizes, wait a minute, these guns don't work. These jets don't work. These missiles don't work. Wait a minute, we just blew billions and billions that we borrowed from you. And then China says, pay up, pay up. Okay, can you see the insanity here? It's just another way to cripple the enemy. Sell them duds. Let me go back again. Hold on. So there's all that creepy, scary stuff going on. It's I personally feel that we're already in World War III, because I see it as a currency war more than anything else. In other words, the money and how it flows invisibly all across the world. And the United States is at the epicenter of the battle. And Venezuela, Argentina are suffering intensely right now. A lot of Middle Eastern countries are suffering. A lot of African countries are suffering. And so a lot of those people, guess what? According to Mark Moss, and I concur, is that he has this feeling that there's a lot of migrants that are moving across from here to here. Because Mark was on a plane and he said it was very, very weird to be on this plane from Madrid to El Salvador, and where he noticed that the whole plane was filled up with migrants. and they were all very well dressed, and they seemed to have money. And how did that make sense? And then they get to the border, and then they strip down and wear crappy clothes, and they lose all their ideas. What the bleep is going on? He is of an opinion that somebody, some kind of, I guess you could call it an NGO, non-government organization that's probably funded by the owners of the world, are paying and finding a lot of people in here who are willing to basically give up their whole lives that they have over here and come over here and just park themselves inside here and fill this place up with another 5 million people that didn't exist here 2 years ago. That's an awful lot of people, and that's why they're starting to call it an invasion. So, anyway, I'm sorry, but this keeps me up at night. I'm doing the best I can to, mind my own business. That's about all that anybody can do. Talked about that. Talked about the future dates. Talked about China and Taiwan. I think I've covered everything I wanted to do in this. There's so much more to cover, but I just wanted to say I'm glad to be back, and I hope you get something out of this. Please share. I'm going to load this very same video onto Rumble just in case this one gets hacked, axed, demonetized, or whatever. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Remember, stay free. This was very, very hard earned, and this is almost non-existent now. Okay? I'm hoping that we can reclaim this. The next few years are going to be very pivotal. Pluto in Aquarius, it's going to be 20 years journey of revolution and global upheaval, societal upheaval. So prepare now. I don't know what that's going to look like, but either way, I recommend you prepare now. Thank you. Bye-bye. I hope I didn't scare you. Bye.